Welcome to the open mic. We have 140 people on. We're a few minutes past the top of the hour. Hey, you've got Aaron with Roost. We do this call for you folks. You wanted to hear what we're working on, what's new, and do a little R&D from your MSP peers, or rob and duplicate their automation ideas. With that, a couple of reminders. People are now talking about killing fun and hard water in the chat. A couple reminders. If you're using Discord, by the way, you should be using Discord because 100% of MSPs building automations have all asked a question at some point. If you never asked a question on how to do something in Discord, you're probably not doing as well as you could be with automation. So participate, even if it's just asking a question in your own private Discord. If you want to take it to the next level, go in the coop and the other channels and ask questions or help other people there. Let's get the MSP industry automated by helping each other. Next, if you are interacting with us in Discord, please reply in a thread or tag us. We are dealing with a whole bunch of channels and multiple Discord servers at the same time. Speaking of multiple Discord servers, we have them. It's not because we like multiple Discord servers. You can only have 500 channels per server. So if you are on a single server and you don't see the coop, please join the other server with the coop and participate there. If you're building workflows, make sure you add time savings. And one last reminder, this is a very, very technical call. This call is targeting automation engineers. And so with that, if you're an owner or a decision maker or a manager and you're not the person building workflows, it can kind of be a little stressful to see all the tech we're talking about here. Feel free to hang out and listen to what the automation people are building and doing, and ask any questions. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Ash. Ash, what's up?
Hi, thank you. Awesome. All right. So we are, somebody in the chat said today I get the honor of having Adam's birthday today because he's on vacation. So that was funny. That made me laugh. But we're going to jump over right away to Nick for our dev update. And we've got a regular schedule ahead of us after that. Assuming you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, great. All right. I am on a different computer at a different location today due to hurricane situations, but let's go ahead and talk about some updates. I'll go ahead and share screen here. Great. So some new features and items to talk about. The new dashboard has been deployed to all customers now, so everybody should be seeing the new dashboard in production. We've got a bunch of bug fixes and chores here that we've done recently. We added a missing parameter to the Synix integration for Google Workspace action. We deployed switch to WorkOS permissions from Warrant. I've discussed this a couple times before, but Warrant, our permissions system, was acquired by WorkOS, and we had to do a bit of a migration there. We've got that deployed behind feature flags, so it's not turned on yet, and we're still testing it to make sure everything is all good. We fixed a bug where the deleted prefix wasn't being removed from soft deleted orgs when they were restored. It fixed a problem where form load times were very slow if the form was activated for a very large number of orgs. We applied a production feature flagging system to all production environments so that we can use the same feature flags across multiple environments. We fixed an issue with Jinja Boolean values being converted to strings for displaying default values, and that was causing the value to always return true in some cases. We fixed that, so now it will actually render to false for all false engine values. We fixed a bug in the create gist action for our new GitHub integration that's being worked on. Added automatic conversion to JSON if you're using a generic HTTP request for any of our integrations and you set the content type to application JSON, and the data in the data field is actually a dictionary or a list that can be converted to JSON, it will now automatically do so. We updated the daily time saved rollup for the new dashboard to include the end date and added some validation there to prevent it from returning results beyond that end date. Fixed a bug with host validation and app platform apps to handle schemas, different URL schemas for future production environments. Fixed a number of bugs discovered by QA for the new DNS filter integration, as well as a bug for the select all button for CSP permissions. There were some styling issues that we had to get corrected before we released the new dashboard in terms of text spacing. We got that worked out, and we optimized the list workflow executions with time savings action for the Roost integration. Some other things that are coming very soon, new org picker. We've done a few enhancements to that, and I think we're just about ready to go. And so we're going to start rolling that out to y'all similarly to how we did the dashboard, turning on the feature flag for some groups of people probably next week. Bitdefender integration has moved to QA review. That was previously in development, and the granular forms permission is waiting on that warrant to WorkOS migration that I mentioned earlier. IT Portal, Synix Australia, Cove, and GitHub, we're still responding to some QA feedback on those, and multiplayer workflows has moved from code review to QA review. Some new things coming up, Crushbank integration, Nodeware, and SQL database integration refactor. Those are all in code review. We have pull requests open. And we're currently working on JSON RPC base client and some webroot triggers that are coming soon. And I think I've covered just about everything for this week. We have a whole bunch of updates that we're looking to deploy very soon. We dedicated a day of development time this week to reviewing and responding to pull requests. We had a huge number of them open. There was a backlog. We've gotten through a lot of that. So we have probably 30 to 40 more updates coming out in the next day or two. And I believe that's all I've got for today, Ash.
Thank you, Nick. All right, we're going to jump over to Daniel, and he's going to give us his marketplace update.
All right, let's go. Okay, so we don't have any of our new crates out this week, but we have a few bug fixes to talk about and some upcoming stuff. So we have updated the RMM Ninja Run PowerShell on org.dc or endpoint workflow. There was a missing VMware node class that was causing the workflow to fail. We've added some failure transitions to the deactivate ConnectWise PSA contact crate. For user onboarding, we have added some logic to account for a none type that was being returned, which was causing the workflows to fail when you were looking for the subscription ID. We've added weights when purchasing licenses through SureWeb to procure the right amount of licenses. We were noticing in some instances when procuring licenses through SureWeb, it was actually only procuring one when you needed two. We fixed a failure on the alert on expiring secrets crate when an org was disabled. And we updated a ConnectWise control action on the report to offline servers to Teams crate to use a post request as opposed to a get request. We still have the same crates that are coming soon. We've been focusing again, I think I mentioned last time, on our Stewart's favorite crates. So getting those to an acceptable, I guess, success rate. And the other thing that we're working on that's kind of fun and will be more information will be out on it in the coming weeks or month is our first crates for app platform. So stay tuned for that as well. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, Brandon, are you good? you want to jump in? Should I
I
jump?
think so. Can you all hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Teams has not been my friend this week, but what's up, everybody? Clea, it's so good to see you. So glad to see you and the little baby. All right, let's go ahead and share the screen. Give me just 1 second. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Good? Okay, cool. All right, we got it working. Good. We'll start with our game tip of the week. So first of all, I just finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I should have finished months ago, but I got distracted by a bunch of retro games, which makes sense. So for those of you who have not played it, first of all, definitely play it. Second of all, there is a ton of stuff to do in that game. I would say the main treasure of that game is just the main storyline. So if you got to skip stuff to get done, make sure you get it done because it is worth it and it is amazing. Second of all, don't forget, Zelda came out today. You got to get Zelda, right? You're playing as Zelda. It's the first time Zelda actually makes sense. It's the first time your mother-in-law, who calls Link Zelda, will be correct when she sees you playing this game, because that's something that your mother-in-law does, I'm sure. All right, so those are my tips of the week. Shout outs to R. Paragallo, or Paragallo, not sure how to say that. Tim, Andrew, Robert, Ryan, Addy, Dominic, JD, Tom, Robert, Jordan, and Kat, and Kevin with a perfect score. For taking our foundation certification, you will get your prestigious certified rooster badge in Discord and get access to our not so super secret Discord channel known as Redacted, because it's secret. Otherwise, you can join us in the CluckU Discord channel if you have any questions. And just as a heads up for those of you who may be new, we like to frequent, I won't say lurk, I got in trouble for that last time. We like to frequent that channel and answer any questions you have as you're going through your learning journey. If you have any questions about the trainings themselves, but also just building, feel free to pop in, and we'll have either the community or individuals like Eddie responding. So it's a great place to go if you are looking for support while you are going through your learning journey. Otherwise, for specific FaceTime with the legendary Eddie Chow, we have our office hours that you can sign up for. So just a few updates today. We have our open mics updated and listed from last week. And other than that, we've got a lot of stuff cooking. We have slowed down the cooking a little bit to make sure that Clea has time with that sweet little baby. But we are still moving forward, so keep an eye out for a clean automation certification coming out soon, as well as some exciting updates for the self-paced content coming out as well. For all of our courses, you can check out our CluckU landing page, which you can see here. It gives you access to all of the getting started content, as well as our Roost Foundations and our clean automation content as well. So check it out. And that's going to be it for me.
Thank you, Brandon. You'll have to let us know the hats in chat, as per usual. People want to know. Okay, so next up, we actually have Tanner. Tanner has something that he is going to present to us that he's been working on from the ROC.
Hi, thanks, Ashley. If you've not seen me here before, I've only attended one of these. So I'm Tanner. I'm an automation specialist that started in May. Been a fun time learning the platform and becoming a better and better supporter of all of you. Although I usually work in the Australian time zone, so a lot of you may never even hear from me. But hopefully someday in the future you will. Outside of Roost, podcast in the philosophy space, and I'm in the process of being acquired by a media network, and they asked me to do something that was super arduous. They asked me to change the episode and season numbers of all my podcast episodes, and I have a lot of them. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh man, Teams is weird. Okay, all of these, I guess. You guys can see this, I assume? Yes? Yeah.
Yes, we can see now. Yep.
Okay. So this is the podcast, and I've got a ton of episodes, hundreds. And going through each one of these, for example, let's open the very first one. If I were to edit this, I would have to hit the edit button, and then I would have to come down here and change the season number and change the episode number. Now, these had 230 some odd episodes stretched out across 9 seasons, I think it was. And they wanted me to reboot the podcast and put all the old stuff in season 1, relabel all the episodes 1 through 233, and then start a season 2 for the new one. And I was not looking forward to doing that. And luckily, they asked me to do that 2 months after I started Roost. And I thought, I bet Roost could maybe help me do that. I bet some smart people there could help me figure this out. And some smart people did, to include Jack Rowley and Adam Wilford. And after spending some time looking at Megaphone's API, I was able to find an endpoint just like the one I needed and put together what was a very simple workflow where we essentially connect to the API, grab a list of all episode IDs, and on success of retrieving those IDs, we pass a list of single IDs to the next step, which is to update the season and episode number of each episode. Every episode has a season associated with it and an episode number. And then, using a put call, we pass a couple of objects, season 1 always being season 1 because everything was switching to season 1 for the reboot. And then episode number being changed in an iteration to whatever the new episode number was, which would start at, if I'm not mistaken, we offset it by 1. And of course, because we needed to do this with items, under advanced, we used single ID with items. And this took, let me see, instead of the 46 years I feel like it would have taken me, it took no time because I never ran it. No, I don't know why because it was more than 30 days ago. That's why. And I probably have my backup set to only 30 days. Yeah. But it took about 12 minutes to do that. It saved me a ton of time. And I thought this was a really good example of how really you can use Roost to do any number of things that are maybe not directly related to the MSP world. And who knows, maybe some of you out there would need to do that, like updating your game of the week or game of the month blog. I don't know anybody here who would do something like that, but maybe you could use Roost to make those updates more easily. Anyway, that's it, Ashley. I'm sorry it's not longer.
Thank you. No, that was fantastic. You got a lot of reactions. People love these kinds of show-offs. Actually, I think we have it might have been JP. If it was somebody else, I'm sorry, but had the Steam game Crate, and it was like one of our biggest downloaded ones at one point. So people love those kinds of things, right? Showing off those use cases are great. Thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna jump into our demos now. And to start with, I've got I have you written down twice, but we're going to reorganize this. Okay, to start with, we're going to have Will. Will, are you on? Will Young.
All right.
Oh, yay. Good. Hey.
Hi, guys. I'm going to do my best to keep it short and sweet. I was working with a company the other day, and they had some UPSs that were sending alerts into their ConnectWise, and they all came from the same email address, and their dispatcher was spending tons of time just sifting through those and assigning the correct company. This was one of those scenarios where there wasn't an API or an integration available, but I learned something new, and I thought it was really cool. So I'm probably late to the party, but I learned about plus addressing, where you can type in an email address and then add a plus and a tag, which I was able to include with Roost and do some really cool stuff. So the first thing I did was I created a form, and the form is real simple. It's just you type in the email address of your email connector, and then you select your company, and then we use some regex to build what you should type in for the email address for that particular client. And what that looks like here is my email is or support@will.com, and I want to build this for my test company integration or test company machines. This is the email I'm going to use. And then what happens is when the new ticket gets created, I have a real simple workflow that's catching new tickets with a CC. So it catches that that added email address, and then it extracts that company ID. And if there is no company ID, that just means somebody else CC'd something. But if there is, then it's just going to update the company on the ticket. Super simple. I learned something new that I wish I would have known 5 years ago, before everybody's building integrations and APIs. This would have been super helpful, but I just thought this was really cool and wanted to share.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, just checking to see if we had any questions. Nope. Okay. So we are going to jump now to Logan. Logan, you are up next. We've got the one, now that Calvin's here, we've got the one that you're not afraid to show him.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more vanilla, I promise. All right, let me get this open. So this workflow is one I actually started working on, just to give some backstory while I get the screen share ready. That was prompted by me seeing all of my workflow triggers in a list, and honestly, my OCD told me it was wrong because there were too many of them for the same thing, and there was no detail. So I went on a bit of a tirade and started bundling all of my new ticket workflows under one master workflow. So basically we start at the top here, and this trigger is pretty simply looking for brand new ConnectWise PSA records to our help desk. From there, it's going to look at the source of the ticket, and pretty much every one of these on the left-hand side is a filter of some sort looking at a different parameter of the ticket. This source one at the top is looking for basically just for us to be able to continue, not for it to be something we want to skip steps on. And that's mostly going to be from email and thread. So those two ticket types are the ones that our customers are actually sending through and communicating with us. The rest of these are usually alerts or our technicians entering something. And then it'll come down to company and try to catch either the company that we put all of our spam contacts in to just basically throw it in a trash can and move on. Or if it's not spam, it will proceed to AI categorization. So this is a good example of taking some of your existing crate workflows and starting to organize them and how you want them to execute and when. So basically, we just take the ticket body that's coming in from the trigger in ConnectWise and passing it into the actual sub workflow. And then this is purely the workflow of the crate. Nothing fancy going on here, still synced. You can just slap it in there like that. There are a couple of these that don't actually take this body. I forget which they are. It might be, I think this is one that I had to clone and do this with, yeah. So basically you just add an input that would accept the body or the ticket ID, that way you can go and grab what you need. But yeah, this is basically just chaining together a bunch of filters and proceeding to certain steps based on those filters. We have a couple that skip all the way down to the bottom because we don't want AI interacting with it. We don't want to triage it. We just want to have the ticket and let it be how it is. The rest of them we'll process in any which way we feel, and it makes it a lot easier to come in and see everything that's affecting a new ticket. So instead of trying to hunt down all these workflows with various triggers, what one might be stepping on another's toes, causing race conditions, it's just a very nice way to clean it up. Any questions?
Very nice. Lots of celebration claps.
Yeah, this one was meant to be pretty simple just to get the concept across. And you can do this with any of your triggers, honestly, condensing it down into one pretty workflow that shows you exactly what's happening when that event occurs.
Kelvin asked, what workflow was I not allowed to see? You'd have to go watch the open mic from last week to find out.
Yep, exactly. Or wait for upcoming Wednesday.
I heard about that one.
All right, thank you. Next, we are going to have Devin.
Hello, everybody. Get some backstory on this. This is like a conditional access policy modification automation, specifically when it comes to like US only policies. I don't know if any other MSPs do this. I can imagine they do, but one of the policies that we have everywhere in all of our clients is a US only policy for conditional access. It doesn't allow them to log in unless their IP is coming from the US. That being said, there is a lot of tickets that we get that specifically says like, hey, I'm traveling out of the country, I need access to those external resources while I'm out of the country. So one simple way to do this through Roost is to allow Roost to modify those policies or exempt those users, but then have some cool functionality with Roost where it kind of just takes over and then it exempts them on the day that they leave, the date and time, and then also removes them from the exemption list when they get back. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like. The form's pretty simple. This is pulling dynamic options for all the tickets open. Requester name, this is just O365 dynamic options. You can put the user in here. I've already done this in the back end, so I'll kind of show you what this looks like, and I won't submit it. But then we have a start date and time, end date and time, where they're going, and then who the approver needs to be. So that's typically their manager. What this will look like when you submit it is a email will get sent to their manager stating this person is trying to access company resources outside the US and needs approval. And it gives them kind of a detailed synopsis of what's going on, where they're going, and then they can approve this. So this is kind of a CYA on our side, but then also, it kind of helps us so that we know even if the end user submits the ticket, like their manager's aware that this is happening. So they can approve or deny this. If they do approve it, the end user will get this email. Whoever approved the request has approved your request. We'll see you back, and then probably should do some formatting here, but it shows you the date and time. And then I canceled the workflow, so we can't see it here, but eventually it'll say this person has approved your request, and it'll just it'll keep the ticket open, reassign the ticket to Roost, and then close the ticket once it's done. And I'll show you what the workflow looks like, but just as like this side, that's kind of what that looks like. So it'll say this person approved. It'll remove, in my case, this is me. It'll remove me from this and then just assign it solely to Roost, and then it'll close it once it's done. So this is kind of what the workflow looks like. It is a massive workflow. Probably need to consolidate some of this into sub workflows, but this is kind of the gist of it. It gets the ticket from the form. It gets the user, gets all CA policies for that company. Then the approval email is sent off. This one company specifically doesn't want the approval email to go off, so I have that split out. But if it's not that specific company, it'll go through the normal approval process. If it's denied, it'll just send an email to that end user stating that it's denied, to talk to that manager, whoever denied it, and then it closes the ticket. If it is approved, it'll send that email like we saw. It'll find the conditional access policy, that US only policy. If it doesn't find it, if for some reason the cyber team has not set up that conditional access, it'll state it here and then send an email to the cyber team saying, hey, we need to get that policy set up for them. If it does, which I think I've never found a scenario where it doesn't, it will get that policy ID, add the policy to the ticket, get the policy details, append that user to the excluded users list, and then just in Jinja here, but then it will delay the workflow until their start date. So we can even submit this a week ahead, right? And this way that ticket will be handled then. This is where it'll actually add the user. It'll update the ticket stating it's added them. This is kind of something that we added for cyber. This sends an email to our cyber department and adds it to a power app that shows them all of the users that are currently out of the country. So if they want to review sign-in logs, they know these people have already been out, and where their sign-ins are and where they're going. Then it will delay the workflow until they get back. And then this is where it'll go through and kind of do the reverse here. So it'll get the policy details again. The reason we're doing that is because if this is submitted multiple times, we didn't want to keep the same cache details and then revert it back if it's been submitted multiple times, because then it would bork the list, right? So we had to make sure we're always getting the most recent details of that policy. It removes the user that was added before, add the information of the ticket, and closes the ticket. And then this is where it removes it from the Power App on our side. It's an extra little dealie for the cyber team. So regardless, it's pretty nasty looking workflow, but it does what we want to, and it works really well for us. So.
Well, you got a lot of kudos in the chat. People are asking for a copy.
Looks like we should get some people voting on that for a crate to prioritize.
Yeah. I mean, we were noticing, we were getting at least 10 of those tickets every week, right? And then to have us go into each tenant every time, and then Adam is exempted, then we have to leave it assigned to us. The technicians would just have a ticket go stale after them having it in their queue for a week, right? And this way, Roos just kind of handles it in and out, and it's been huge.
Amazing. How long did it take you to make that?
It took me about a week, actually. Yeah, I had I initially had issues. Probably the hardest thing was the manipulating the conditional access policies. I struggled with that a little bit. But I think I had a few people help me. First one that's coming to the top of my head is Dan Haynes. I think he helped me with definitely those. So permanent.
I think he self-proclaims himself Mother Hen, so.
Yeah, so but it was probably about a week, and it saved us a whole bunch of time. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. Oops, was somebody else going to chime in there?
I'm just laughing over here in the chat. Sorry.
So our very last demo this week is going to be RJ. RJ had his inaugural visit with us before, and now he's back to show us what else he's got cooking.
Right. Thanks, Ash. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead, and this week it's going to be a little bit more technical. I'm going to go through a deeper dive into a workflow I built for FedEx shipping tracking. So this one is geared in with our primary ticketing system, Halo PSA, and a custom integration with FedEx. One thing that I've noticed with Halo is not always easy to get kind of the data that I want out of the system directly, at least with a few number of calls. So I often create a report in Halo to pull all the data together that I want for any given workflow. And then I have one nice simple call that I can run, this Halo get report, that fetches all the data that I want for this workflow. Another thing that I do in here a lot is all of these transform, these set variables. This is where all of the data processing happens. So it's a nice, clean visual way to see what we're doing with the data as it comes in and works through the workflow. So the first step here, we just get the data out of Halo, and the processing for that we're doing is pretty simple to start. Just a little list comprehension. Halo returns kind of a report object with a bunch of data about the report, as well as the data that I actually want. So I pull out the actual data itself, and then there is a pair of processing for getting ready for FedEx. So this one here, this is preparing for the FedEx query itself. So what we mostly care about is the tracking number. FedEx makes it nice and simple. We provide some dates around when we're going to look for the package, and then the tracking number itself. We basically just post that off to FedEx, and it will return us a nice chunk of data about said tracking information. So this is going through that report, finding anything that is FedEx related, because we do ship with other vendors, anything that hasn't yet been received, and then it gets packaged up and ready for the next part of the post. Also, in parallel to that, I make a little kind of helper variable over here to put together the tracking number and a bunch of data around the ticket itself, just so I can quickly reference that later once we get the data back from FedEx. FedEx here, it uses a kind of an older version, I would say, of the custom integrations. So I built this a while back. It's a simple post to their tracking endpoint. You can do a bulk post at once, so we gather all those tracking numbers together into a single call and request data about them from FedEx. Once we get that back, there is quite a bit of handling to do on it. So we go through all the different results that it pulls, parse out some useful information we want to pass back into the ticketing system, like where it was last scanned, current status, estimated delivery windows, stuff like that. And it prepares in here as well kind of what that actual note is going to look like when it goes back into our ticketing system. And a lot of this here, you can see kind of in this section is where kind of an HTML formatted note is going to go into the ticket itself for quick reference. Once all that's been parsed, we've got another kind of split here. So the main action is going to be updating our ticketing system with the information. It does just kind of blindly write back every single time there's an update or not an update. It'll update the field where that information is stored. But over here, there's a little bit of extra logic for email notifications. So I check against kind of the last status that we had recorded for a given tracking number. If it was not received, or rather not delivered, and now it's been delivered, it'll kind of flag that, put together some information about the tracking package, and then send an email off with our Mailgun integration to our procurement folks. And the workflow ends. There are a couple other pieces I want to show for this. First off is a template. Templates, super nice for these kind of like standard communications I found. So this is where we actually build the email that goes to our procurement folks. Pretty simple, just a list of all the different things that have been delivered in between runs of this workflow, with links to the ticket and some basic information there. And the last bit here is a reference workflow that I've created for the FedEx integration. So it quickly allows you to just copy and paste some basic actions from this reference to a workflow where you're using it. Now, this is pretty small, and I'd say it's overwritten by a new kind of open beta feature for Roost, which is the open API integrations. 10 out of 10 would recommend to use those instead of the old custom integrations, because it lets you build with either an imported open API spec or one that you write yourself, another kind of integration that you can pull actions from right in the sidebar, as opposed to using a like template system like this. And that is that.
Thank you. All right. Yes, thank you very much, RJ. Does anybody have any questions? We are actually at the end of our scheduled demos now. So we have a good 17 minutes of Q&A time for anybody who wants it. So It really actually only works in language, so I should just say it, but I call it the Q&A with Tim Fournet, even though that's not how you say his last name, but when he's Canadian. Tim, we've got lots of time.
Actually, I wanted to kind of call out first some really awesome shares this week and really every week. And if you did share something on the open mic that you would like, that you don't mind sharing with other people, again, go to Discord and just remind people maybe what you shared and let them respond if they would like a copy of it. I know things are really easy to lose in the chat in here, but Discord is a little bit more permanent than this chat.
And we have the workflow forum channel as well, where we can help you post stuff there if you need help. Just let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that does make it a lot easier as well. But yeah, I mean, anybody, this is open Q&A time for you guys. It could be, if you want to ask about something you're working on or ask just any random questions about the platform, what we're working on, what's coming next, anything else like that. Just come off mic and ask away or raise your hand. I think I see a hand up, Logan. Go for it.
Hey, so I'm working on a relatively crazy workflow right now that very much depends on being able to return a status code other than 200, especially with wait for completion. And right now, I actually cannot get it to return anything other than a 200.
Interesting. You want to share it and we'll take a look?
Yeah, for sure. Let me get
I feel like I know the answer. So it's whenever you're doing wait for results, right?
Yeah.
So I think on wait for results, that's expected. So if you're not doing wait for results, you should be able to modify the status. But with the wait for results, I think it does a redirect status, and then once it receives the workflow results, then it returns the workflow results. And I think that's a 200 status.
Yeah, it sounds about right because it will send you'll get a 303 or 301 redirect until the workflow finishes. And then, yeah,
it's actually returning a straight up 200. So I'm not seeing a redirect. I'm actually allowing it to follow the redirects. Hold on, let me get
If you set it to follow, then you probably won't see it in your client because it'll be kind of hidden until the final result.
Right. Just to show the trigger here to make sure, I actually did try setting a hard-coded 403 response as well.
Yeah, it sounds like we might need to set up some kind of like a feature request to support this, or ideally maybe something that, when we do a wait for results, maybe we could set up some sort of a context variable that would be for the status to return.
That would work because basically all I'm doing here is retrieving a list of IP addresses from Ubiquiti, and then if it's on that list, I want to return a 200, and if it's not, I want to return a 403.
Yeah. I can't think of another way to handle this other than us needing to create new features. But I think being able to specify a result maybe as an output variable or something whenever we do wait for results would be the right path to go forward. So yeah, let's get a feature request in.
Yeah, I'm looking through the code right now, and yeah, we just always return a 200 if you do get a result. Yeah, I think we should just be able to pull that value from that field.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that we want it to be conditional based on what happens in the workflow.
Right. I wanted to basically look at an allow list that's being gathered during the workflow and determine the result at the end.
Gotcha. It's a little more complicated because we'll have to figure out where we want to put that.
You'll need access to the final context variables.
Which we do, but we don't want to just pick an arbitrary variable to, define what the status return is. So
Yeah, I mean, he's got the Jinja field there though, so it could potentially be like, let him write Jinja to output whatever code he wants based on, some comparisons.
yeah, true that.
Yeah, I can see this would be very useful.
Yeah.
What you got there?
Daniel with an A. You do the thing so we don't forget. Frank is raising his hand. Ask your question, Frank. I thought it was pretty good.
What you got, Frank?
I'm newer to the platform, so these might be basic questions, but hopefully some other newer people might find some use out of it. As far as the data alias and with RJ's, he broke out a lot of the logic to take lists and other data and manipulate it so that it's called out. And I've been putting that in the data alias, and it kind of gets lost in as the workflow grows. So I'm looking for more of best practices on the best way to handle readability for my 6-month future self or someone else.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of using, if you look in the workflow editor, there's a section called data transformations. And if you go in there, get a screen share going just to show it. So under transforms, I like to just use the set variable action if I'm going to write some custom Jinja, and then you would just set it, by variable, and then you would put your expression in here for whatever you would do. And then it's a standalone action that just sets one variable. So it definitely makes it easy to refer back to later and find in the workflow. And then you could name this like set, my bar or whatever you want to call your variable.
My favorite thing about using this instead of putting it in the data alias is that it'll actually show up in your results when you're looking through the tasks as well, instead of having to expand the context and go searching through that way. You can actually see it like when you name it right in the task.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So when I forget a %sign in the Jinja, I'll know it's there.
It'll give you your errors right there too. Yes.
Yeah. And also don't sleep on all the other transforms that are in here. There's some really useful things that will shortcut you from having to write Jinja. Really, these things are just running Jinja in the background, but they'll do simple stuff. Like if you just want an action that splits text, you can just put in an input and what you want to what you want the separation from, and then how many you want to get. So there are some really useful, simple things here. And what's nice about those as well is you know exactly what it's going to do when you use it.
Okay, because I have some existing Python things in Django, and it goes out and pulls like a month's worth of faxing CDR records. And there's a tremendous amount of data manipulation in that to figure out what their invoices are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of useful things in here, and I think we add to it pretty regularly. So look for, different features that you would hope to find.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I could talk your ear off for the next 3 days, but I'm not going to do it.
Thanks for asking a question.
Yeah, thanks.
All the cool people are doing it. Did anyone working on a workflow and they're getting an error? Want to share their screen?
I'm getting a weird error.
Let's help Jen.
Yeah, Jen.
Always with the weird little things. Hold on, let me.
Brett's working on removing automate from a few thousand machines.
That's either good or bad news, depending on what he's replacing it with.
See you, Jim Barry.
I was going to mention this on Monday because I don't normally want to work Friday afternoons. Which screen am I looking at? Not that one. Right screen. Okay. So I have this thing where I have the params being sent via app platform with a workflow webhook trigger, right? And this is one of the fields that gets sent, display name and then UPN or app ID. And for some reason, UPN or app ID will not parse out. And I don't know why. Super silly because it's right there. Display name parses out. Everything else parses out except for the UPN or app ID.
Because
two
your
colons
app
right
ID is including a colon.
Is it including a colon? It is including a colon at the end. You know what? Second set of eyes. That's all I need.
Yep. Or a second 100 set of eyes.
Second
We need
200
to
set of eyes.
recreate that
There we
Sesame
go.
Street song.
I'm like, why isn't this working? All right, it's got a colon. Stare at things for hours and you don't notice that there's a second colon. Actually, I didn't stare at it for hours, but
I've been struggling with Azio, and if anybody is thinking about switching to Azio and working on APIs, don't.
So tell us a little bit about the Azio APIs, Philip, because
API?
Exactly, that's the thing. And this is just meant to spread correct information. There's a lot of information coming from the company that makes Azio that it's full of APIs for automation. Philip, as a customer of theirs, trying to integrate with those APIs, what's your opinion of them?
There are a good number of endpoints that are available. The documentation on those endpoints is lacking. The pagination on those endpoints is not documented at all, if it even exists.
Well, here comes the worst part, Philip, is I've been told directly by the product manager over their API, they're literally going to rebuild the entire thing again soon anyway. Their whole API is not even how they want it structured. It's awful.
Yeah, so right now, all I'm trying to do is get a list of companies that are built that I have built in Azio, and I posted a message in Discord. I can get a list of 500. That's it. I can't get more than 500. I can't get a second page. I can only get 500, and it's always the same 500.
Microsoft has an endpoint like that too. That can only get 50 recordings. You can't get anything else.
So bad.
Hey, for those of you who are wondering what the new org picker looks like, I shared my screen. It may not look that different to some of you folks, but it's like multi-leveled. And so right now I'm viewing my MSP's level, which is Roost demo, and then below it, you can see the next level. And if you had a level below that, you could see the next level. And then of course you can search it. And if you want to go back to just your level, you would just click here. I can't do it because there would be a bunch of companies on the screen. That was for Trey.
You're the best, Aaron. This is going to be great.
Everybody else avert your eyes.
Frank, thank you, Philip, for the insights. And one question for you. One of the big uses for Azio would be to integrate with ConnectWise RMM. Have you looked at that? Is there an ability that you saw to execute a command to ConnectWise RMM through it?
I haven't even gotten that far into it yet. I'm just trying to get superficial data.
Perfect, thank you. Frank raised his hand. We have a minute left. Frank, did you have something else?
Yeah, if this might be a real basic question. What aspect ratio monitor do you guys suggest so I don't have the publish button buried? I work from multiple different offices, so.
I'm a big fan of my 32x9.
Okay.
It seems over the top, but once you get a 32x9 monitor, you wonder why you haven't gotten a 32x9 monitor.
Yeah, I just did the same thing, and it's definitely a life changer.
I not promoting products obviously, but like I got the Odyssey G9. It was on a huge sale recently, and my my webcam sits beautifully in the middle of it.
If you need a quick fix when you're just working, decrease your DPI to 125% instead of 150. That's probably going to solve it. Then the button appears. It's a weird thing.
The other thing is due to the way that the workflow editor renders currently. If you do a control scroll down or command scroll down, if you're using a non-okay device, you do need to refresh the page in order for everything to re-render and be able to see those buttons. Same with like window resizing. I've ran into a few times.
Okay, cool.
But also just get a 49-inch ultra wide. Be done with it.
That works. Thank you.
Hey.
I didn't want to go spend a whole bunch of money on a monitor and then go, crap, it's the wrong one.
Oh, it's the right one.
Another thing you can do, just to note, because I was looking at the same thing on mine, you can't control like plus and minus to zoom in and out or mouse wheel, but you can zoom if you use the browser's menu and just go zoom out. That works for me. And then you can just scroll back in with your mouse to zoom back in on the nodes.
It's not really the workflow field. It's that menu bar at the top that does it.
Yeah, well, when you zoom out with the browser tools, then it will shrink the top bar so that it all fits.
Hey, you folks can continue chatting. I just wanted to wrap up the call. Whoever wants to hang out and do workflows or chat, you're more than welcome. Hey, everybody. I want to thank all the people that demoed. It can be stressful in front of 180 people. Also, I want to thank the folks that asked questions. Frank, thanks for coming in for the first time with a question today. All the cool kids are asking questions these days. And the
warm ones too.
And with that, have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you again next Friday. Toodles.
Bye, friends.
Thank you.
Yeah.